Hey everyone, this is Southern Fried Chad again here with Cal, a legend in the community, co-host of the Flip the Stock Market podcast and co-host of Crypto Compass. We are lucky to have him as an Aeon. I'm just going to get right into it. Why is SPX1600 special to you?
Man, well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. This show is one of my favorite shows, just on all of everything, every platform. Yeah, I think we were like part of the same SPX class, I believe, which was like pretty much right after Murad. And I think it took us both a little bit to like really, I think, get to the level of depth that we know exists within SPX. I think like SPX is really important to me for a couple reasons. Um, One is very personal, which I haven't really shared at length yet, but I actually, I guess similar to Tans, I worked for a chain, which there's more context to. I worked for a chain for a little bit. It was my kind of like my first job outside of like the Web 2 world, which is where I come from. And I had angel invested in the chain. I had some close friends who worked on it. And I really I believed in them. I believed in like what crypto theoretically could be. I was very naive, like in terms of what the industry was at that time. And when I started working for the chain, I thought that like the democratization of finance was a really interesting concept, and I thought it was really cool that I could like buy equity. Basically, how I viewed it was myself
Yeah.
at market. And so this was probably late 23, early 24. I bought far more than I should have of this chain
Uh,
token, and I lost a lot of that, kind of like slowly over time, but especially in the August, I think August 4th sell-off of 2024, whatever
yeah.
that day was, where like I'm sure you remember, like everything dropped double
Oh,
digits.
yeah. I remember now.
Yeah, it was a massive liquidation day, and so I lost like a substantial portion of my net worth from staking those tokens. It's like
Shit.
couldn't
Yep.
access. And so, that was pretty brutal, pretty devastating for me. I had worked, really hard. I had had two or three of my own companies. I'd worked for like a massive company at that point, like a Fortune 10, and then two startups to that point, of which were like very difficult. 2022 bear, like really had to fight for my job and my position and all that stuff. And I'd saved a lot of money in that time. I had invested at the right time. Bought a bunch of Bitcoin, ETH, etc. A bunch of like CrowdStrike, like kind of what I thought to be like kind of A and S tier stocks, and all of those did really well. And I lost a lot of that
Mm,
from that mistake, which was
yeah.
just ironically like what attracted me to SPX, which was delusional optimism.
Yep.
And so, I had been following Murad very closely for a long time, and I at the time was working for, first half of 2024 was working for that chain, and I was having a really hard time pitching it to people. It's pretty obvious like now, right? But obviously that was part of like Murad's thesis. And I was having a hard time pitching it to people. It was, one of 100 that were kind of trying to do the same thing in like a diluted liquidity environment. And at that time, memes were blowing up. And I was kind of like, this is interesting. I'm like frustrated that I'm so bad at this. And so that's when I made the Cal account.
Ah.
I'd had multiple Twitter accounts for a long time, but I was in like Silicon Valley Twitter,
Ah.
which is a lot drier, to say the least. So I was like, okay, I made the Cal account because I was like, what, like, I need to understand what
Yeah.
people in crypto are even like. Like, what are they, which was a, Pandora's box in and of itself. But, that basically became a meme account because I don't know, I've always been drawn to that kind of stuff. And obviously, I'm sure you remember there was so much noise at the time. There were a million accounts spewing a million different things. And I thought Murad was the only account that was thinking with any sort of long-termism. So I was really intrigued by that. I know you were like you kind of I don't know if you started in or maybe you started in the bonk community, but I know you were a Sproto for a while and you were in ticker Bitcoin
Yeah,
slash
Bitcoin. I mean, not Bitcoin. Bonk was my first meme coin
bonk.
I bought by happenstance in like the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, when it was
Yeah.
super low. I just put like 30, $40 in it, and it blew up, and that kind of got me interested. and trying
Nice.
to now went deeper down the path. I still have some, but yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah. So it was actually Murad on like a ticker Bitcoin space. That was the first time I heard him talk. And
Ah,
this was like last summer at some
gotcha.
point. And I just thought it was like all the things that he was discussing, I could immediately tell had way more validity to them just because, he was able to speak to them eloquently
Yep.
and clearly they were his ideas, basically,
Yep.
is where I'm going with that. And so when he announced SPX, I had some of the other coins before that I kind of reached on my own conclusion. The only one that I still hold from what I had before is Giga, of
Okay.
which I've got much more involved in. But that's when I bought SPX with the remainder of my unstaked utility token.
Cool.
I just swapped all of it for SPX, and I'm obviously extremely happy that I did. So the biggest, like honestly, one of the biggest reasons that I initially was drawn to it is I was like, wow, I feel like for the first time in crypto history, I am in my crypto history, I am like kind of using the labor of the holders before me to, I don't know, I guess grow my wealth. And I've never taken a trader mentality to any of this. I just don't really subscribe to that. And so I was like, my initial thought was like, I have to pay this forward. I have to kind of be an Aeon, so to speak, whether I actually am, like PFP wise or not. I spiritually have to like commit to what these people have kind of done thus far. And yeah, so that became like a very important thing to me, I think, in like the initial months where I don't think I had a full grasp of like what SPX could be or meant. And so it was a very emotional tie at first because I felt like I was, given like a get out of jail free card by, people like Space Fruit and Baprol and Mung and all of these legends that kind of came in the pre-Murad time and stuck to volleyball practice and did all the things we know the OGs did.
When did you
Uh,
learn of them? Learn of the OGs? Just sorry to interrupt.
so
Just curious.
no, it's okay. But like before I bought, because I had had that experience, I did this with every meme coin that I had purchased. Like
Hmm.
I tried to do as much like due diligence
Sure.
as you can
Hmm.
do on a meme coin. Like I socially, I tried to get as involved as I could anonymously. So I hung out in the Telegram like incessantly for like a week and a half. I listened to both Sunday Spaces, but also went back and listened to a bunch of ones on the old main account
Yeah.
before it got taken down. Um, I DM'd multiple people. I tried to make a meme or two and kind of I bounced ideas off like Sindat and I think it was Munchies, but I can't quite remember. And then Nicole just to kind of like see like basically like are these people it was basically the bots thing. I was like, are these real people? And
Yeah.
like kind of what do they stand for? Do they act the same way that these kind of random posts I'm seeing describe, And I kind of felt the passion, and they were all really responsive to me. They were all super nice. That was something I had never really experienced before in crypto. Normally, it was just like, I don't know, it's like a slur or
Yeah.
like, it's like, I don't know, you sold or, you bought or like whatever, right?
Yep.
And so I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. And I felt compelled to be involved in that because that's how I think about things. And yeah, so that's kind of how I initially like I guess like interacted with
Sure.
them. And I think this was before it was just completely impossible for them to keep up with everything because there was
Yeah.
yeah, just more room for like conversation and stuff. Um, but that's kind of how my journey into SPX started. And that's why it initially kind of resonated with me so much. And then I think SPX is really good at testing people, testing their resilience, testing their ability to like persist forever, testing their commitment. And I don't think that's just through price action either. I think like socially, there's a very passionate self like filtering mechanism that exists in
Hmm.
SPX. And so I felt very loyal to defending what that meant to me during like the March April downturn that
Yeah.
you were like very proactively a part of, and I still remember like everyone who was kind of I think fighting for what we stood for at the time because there was so little activity generally happening and so little
Hmm.
optimism that I think we all just conformed together and we were like, yo, this corner of the internet is just like a safe haven from all this doom and gloom everywhere. And so I don't that kind of that really shifted my perspective into another gear as to like what this could be. And I think the fact too that there were a bunch of people that I recognized from when I got like quote unquote got involved that were newer
Mm.
that were joining made me really like the wheels start to turn about where this could go and also how this could be applied generally in the sense that any asset is theoretically supply and demand. So if you can find the most loyal people who comprise an asset, then basically it's just like I don't know Kmart Murad, right? Like it's like a like 6 month delay Murad, but I saw it in the people this time because I was just more involved. That these people they were not going to sell, right? And also they were working harder than anyone to find new people to buy. And I was like, okay, so this is just like really a formula of time, right? And that like kind of turned my gear of passion and interest up another level. And then I have to give a shout out to Monge because I think like I think in SPX you never really have like a final form, but I think that Monge really helped me, I guess, start to dream a little bit about like how these things could come to life even more. Because I had had concerns for a long time that like Twitter in general is kind of hard to navigate. I would never tell like one of my friends in real life like yo, you got to get on this place where like everyone calls each other like the R word and just like that would not probably go over super well. And
It's
so
your dirty little secret.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I was just kind of like, it seems too foreign. It seems too like cypherpunk and unapproachable, I think, for most people. And as a result, like the coins like SPX that are actually good get grouped with like all these just other random projects that are, I'm sure, fine, but not really of interest for like the average person. And so that's when I got really involved with like, I guess, creating stuff, which I've never done in my
Yep.
life, like content and short form, multi-platform, like DCAing, all these other things that I think are more proactive hat tips toward like what we envision this becoming. And so I think all of those things are super important. And I also feel like really loyal to the people and like the vision. I think like SPX attracts a disproportionate amount of loyalists. And so, I think Murad is like an amazing figurehead of that, but there are so many individual people I could shout out that, have been bedrocks for me in a personal sense, like in a crypto sense, like that I feel are really strong, real relationships, and that's really special to me. So I can't really imagine. I'm so ingrained in what it means to be an
Mhm.
Aeon now that I can't really imagine like I guess another another crypto life. Like I would just not
Yes.
be here, you
Yeah,
know.
no, for real, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't imagine debating utility with people at this point. It's
Yeah,
I
I
see
mean,
that
I
sometimes.
guess
I'm like, I don't care about any of
yeah,
these.
yeah. We can imagine it from the other POV, but I can't imagine being like on the utility side, right?
No, no, definitely
Yeah.
not. Well, yeah, that's. I did want to ask, how many followers did your account have when you, let's say, when you first bought it? Do you recall?
Um, I think like 500, not many.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like I feel like I don't remember you in October.
mhm.
I feel like you came on radar like January, February. Is that when your account really started
That
blowing
is
up?
yeah, that's also when I like started really, I think, thinking a little bit more deeply about this stuff because that was, I think, the start of the first downturn that I experienced that was significant.
Yep.
And I've mentioned this before, but it really forced me to number one, like get more active, get more involved, and number two, question like, what am I? Okay, if I'm not gonna sell and be another one of these kind of like momentum people, then what does this mean to me? Like, why am I not gonna sell? I have to have a legitimate argument to convince myself that like I belong on this side. And so that forced me to, I think, start to like write a little bit more, apply some principles to this, like just get more involved in general, which turned out to be like a great decision. And that's really when I started to, I think, again, think more deeply and become kind of shift to that second gear of SPX like excitement because I think a lot of people last year were kind of in some form of complacency because there was so much spare capital on all chains that things were, especially Solana, but things were just getting, turbo bid up. You didn't really have to like quote unquote work, right? It was all narrative games. It was all just capital sloshing around. And so I think that I was a small fish and was kind of complacent and happy with that. I didn't have like a massive position in anything. And then when things like really turned down, I was like, okay, this is an opportunity, to both increase how much I have in these things and also to think deeply about why I'm in it. So I didn't have many followers. I wasn't very active last year. And I really took like the tariff situation to try to figure out like the why behind all of this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I remember is some of your long form stuff, some
Yeah.
of your diagrams and things. I remember
Yeah.
those.
I
That
need to get back to that because I honestly stopped because I haven't had like a reliable computer setup for a while, but I'm a very visual learner. And so that was like super helpful, it was really just initially just because I was trying to formulate my thoughts. And then, I don't know, I realized like that there are a lot of like tweets in general that are just like, I don't know, like the ticker is blah, blah, blah. Which is fine, but
yeah.
I was just kind of like, there's a gap here. Like, I want people to associate these things with like more than just, I don't know, rotator gambler types.
Yeah, no, it was good content for sure. And back then there wasn't as much content to consume.
Yeah.
That's another thing I try to emphasize with people. Since we're so early, if you are interested in making content, it's the best time to do it for
100%.
SPX because you're still relatively not a lot, So
Yeah.
it's a supply and demand thing.
Yeah.
But
100%.
yeah, I always, I always, um, but I remember, yeah, when you started showing your face and all that, April with the TikTok phenomenon, and then
Yeah.
that's just kept going and blowing up. It's been crazy.
Yeah. No, big time. And I agree with you on like the influencer thing too. I mean, Um, I don't know. I've never had like a socials account that I've cared about in my life. Like it's not really like a thing that I know how to hack or
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been like a passion of mine. And I think this was the first time that I kind of was like, oh wow, like, number one, like this is cool to be a part of something that I feel like is growing and contributing to it like on a routine basis.
Yeah.
And number two, yeah, I mean, you have I talked a little bit about like what I felt like was my duty to be kind of loyal to the OGs in a sense.
Yeah.
And you start to realize like once you've been here for a little bit, and I'm sure you've seen this too, like there's kind of like a like death and rebirth of the voices in SPX too, and so you see these people who have kind of like they enter at a certain point and they start posting more and then they really hit their stride and they find their voice and they find their thing, and it's really cool to see like seeing Jeffrey run with like the Reddit stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or seeing Seb like hit
Oh
the
yeah.
streets of London on a weekly basis is crazy and it's super cool.
Yep.
Seeing like Mike's Spaces marathon, it's awesome to see people come into their own voice and realize that if you have something to say, like this is a platform you can be anything. It's a canvas in a sense.
Yeah. Are you gonna take a spot in the 6.9 day marathon, or are you gonna take a little spot on
Oh
that?
man, I mean, I feel like that'd be messed up not to
You
not
got
to
to.
not to show a little face. I gotta give Mike some time to sleep. Someone's got to be talking while he's on
No,
mute.
he's got. I don't know if he sent you it. He's got like a calendar set up, or I added us some time that I'm going to be
Yeah,
doing it.
he sent me a DM. I haven't had a chance to get back to him yet. I'm like super behind.
I'm sure that's what it's about because he's like he wants people to,
I just saw the post and I was like,
It's insane, right?
it's like a multi-day. I was like,
I'm
Man.
afraid there's going to be technical difficulties. That's what I'm afraid of. That, and you know how it happens with that. That's probably part of the feat. Is like, will you get lucky and
Yeah,
none of the
yeah,
bullshit
true.
happen?
It's just like a purely technical challenge. I mean, with Elon, man, you never know. Like, Manj and I went to, well, I guess I can't even take any credit for this. It was purely Manj. Like, went to flip the stock market, Crypto
Yep.
Compass, and I think he was trying to help with a couple of blues shows on Spotify and Apple podcasts, and like a third of them are just deleted for no reason. There's no explanation.
On Apple.
No, no, like the space recordings,
Oh,
which
what
sucks.
the
Like
fuck?
it's,
Yeah.
like the one we did with Murad back in like April or something.
Deleted.
I mean, it just says unavailable. It's not like the tweet's not deleted.
That's so
At
weird.
least I can't listen to it, and he can't. So
Interesting. I think I actually have that downloaded. I could probably send that to you.
that
Well, let me double check. I'm pretty sure I did because I made a few clips from it. I don't know if you remember.
I did too. I did too. I
Yeah.
just didn't have. I flipped through and then like just audio recorded the small
Well, see,
snippet.
I don't have the actual visual. I have just the audio.
That's fine.
Yeah.
There's not much to see. It's the only thing to see is when uh, Casio Gig Apu Pump it came out as gay to
Oh my
Murad.
god, that was hilarious. I do remember that. I listened to that. That one was great. I saw that one live. That was one of y'all's first ones, right? Or
Yeah,
not
that was early,
first, but
early
early.
days.
I
It was
do.
like third or fourth. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember that. You're like, I'm gonna have to kick you.
I
I
was
remember.
I was so nervous, dude. I was like, I've never really run one of these. Like I forgot people can just with Murad, they who knows what they're gonna do, right? And I mean, thankfully it was funny at least.
Yeah, it was funny as crap. Yeah, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, no, I think I do have the recording. I'll dig that up and
Yeah, let me
send it to you.
know. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Um, well, another question is so financially, we all think SPX is going to do very well, but how has it helped you beyond just the financials?
It's a good question. I feel bad. I feel like I'm answering a lot of these with like three, five answers.
No, it's
What happened?
fine. No, it's better. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's helped me with a couple things. I think that it's helped me a lot with like peace of mind. I think that peaceful life over greed is like a very kind of like underrated commandment, and also just generalist, like forget SPX for a minute, forget crypto for a minute. Like it's a very underrated like approach to life, which is easy to say. I just think a lot of people don't really put it into practice, which is super fair. And I sometimes struggle with that too. But I think that everybody who is in crypto in general is like comfortable with volatility. They're comfortable with, the some days might be amazing, some days might be harder. But I think what the industry generally became way too comfortable with is like really extremist and like negative versions of that. Which I guess could be best categorized as like hyper gambling. And I never liked that. I never liked like the fetishization of that. I never like really respected any of the influencers pushing that. Just never really made sense to me. I was like, I would rather just, I guess, go to a sports book or something.
Yep.
I feel like the odds are very skewed against me in this game, number one. And number two, like, I don't know. I'm a startup person by trade. Like, I like to build things. I like to be a part of, an adventure of trying to like create some grand vision. And, I feel like SPX was the first coin where that really clicked with me. And I was kind of like, oh, this mission is not like this has transcended narrative. Like it's not something that eight KOLs said a couple times so that they could pump a chart and then no
Yep.
one's ever gonna say it again. Like it's a serious thing, and people are going to do everything that they can in their power to flip the stock market. Like it's not a joke. It's not a
Yep.
joke to them. And I remember the first time I saw like uh, um, the timeline, the SPX timeline, where it's like monks crash out and like coach day and volleyball practice
Yep.
starts. And I was kind of like, wow, like, this lore, like it was very similar to how I thought about the companies that I've either built or been a part of. Where there's these landmark moments where you're like, if we lose or if we win, I'm not going to forget this. Like this was a big deal. And so I think it's really helped me kind of combine the reasons that I like crypto, which is, I guess this cypherpunk ideology, this like obviously like asymmetric upside, but like I like volatility. I like risk. Like I've always been very comfortable with that. And in fact, I even kind of seek it in some senses. I just don't like the gambling part of it. I've never, been like I've never been someone who's comfortable with that, but I've been comfortable with like what I seem deem to be like calculated risk. I think my idea of that was always like if I if it's almost like it's almost like post nut clarity or something, it's like
Hmm.
if this were to go to zero,
Yeah.
how stupid would I feel? And SPX was the first coin where I was like I would I wouldn't feel stupid. Like I would feel like, just a company that failed or something. It's like we all had this mission and, if it didn't work out, then I wouldn't hold my head in shame at all. I'd just kind of be like, okay, well, how can we do better? What can we fix? And so it really like peaceful life over greed really resonated with me because it was so antithetical to like how so many people in crypto seem to carry themselves, but it resonated so much more with me that I was like, that's something I want to be a part of. So that's been a huge help. I think outside of that, I've never really deemed myself to be a very like creative person. I think I've always kind of struggled with that. And I've always wanted to be creative. I think like creatives are really cool. And so whether that's like video editing or graphics or, I don't know, any form of creation, it could be like this, I've always kind of like envied people I think that feel like have a really natural gift for that.
Yeah.
And the reason I started like posting so much in January, February, March is I was kind of like I hit like a flow state where I was like I think I really not only enjoy this and understand like generally PBAs and SPX, but also uh, it tapped like a kind of like a I don't know like a neural connection in me I didn't really know I had, and it helped me like start to compare SPX as like an idea to a lot of like moments in history and a lot of moments in like in crypto and a lot of kind of like social rebellion and all these other things. And that was a big like moment for me where it kind of like sounds crazy to say as like a late 20 something, but I was like I can be creative. Like I can't this is an outlet for me
Yeah.
to find a way to express myself I never really knew I had. Um, so that was amazing. And then like I said, I'm a big startup person, and I don't know. I've always just I love soccer. I love I love these like big ideas, these like dreamer type of sports or activities that um, can be so much more. And you have like a group of people who are working as hard as they possibly can to try to bring to fruition, but it's like the hardest possible goal. It's the largest mountain to climb. And my parents were like they were government employees, like very well educated, but very like risk averse. And so like I grew up
Sure.
very much so like, I was like, okay, I get that world, but how can I be like in the more like romantic, almost fantasy novel-esque side of
Yeah.
things? I think, SPX really tapped that for me. It was the first time where I was like, it's very clear what the goal is. It's
Hmm.
very clear how I can help. And I can see it like maybe not just me, but I can see like the general, like the cognosphere growing. I can see it molding. I can see it adapting and evolving in a positive way. And I don't know, like there was something so cool about that to me and being involved in that, and meeting people like you and Mike and Manj and Tans and you could go on and on and on. That was so appealing to me, and I was just like, wow, this could go infinite ways. Like I can't say no to this. Like it would be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely grows on you.
Yeah,
At the beginning, it was very much, I would just say, mimetic based to an extent. And I mean, there's a lot of that lore, but whenever a lot of us didn't get to experience that, and now I feel like we are living through those pivotal moments again, and it just keeps building on itself.
100%.
Yep, which is cool, and I think a lot of people need to appreciate that. I mean, if we're right and we do persist for multi cycles, and Murad said this when I talked to him, people aren't
Mhm.
going to know who any of these people are. They're not going to know who I am. They're not going to know who you
Yeah,
are, and and they're going to have their own little cohort. Um,
Yeah, which I think is like a great thing, and I know he said that too. That was a great interview. Like, I forget who I saw said this the other day, but uh, they said something similar, basically that like Murad was essentially just like the first notable evangelist of an
mhm.
idea of this magnitude, and it's not that he'll be forgotten, but it's similar to like a an Adam Beck or like a lot of like the early uh, notable Bitcoin figures that are, if you dig deep, like they're there, right? You can
Yes.
find them, but it's not who you think of. Now it's Sailor, right? There's a new
Yes.
event.
That's exactly, yeah. I think I said to him, I was like, you remind me of like the Roger Ver back in the day. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
aware. Yeah, the Bitcoin Jesus is what they called him. A lot of people say Murad's like the Jesus or whatever, which is funny, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, the locks help the case, that's for sure.
they definitely do. They definitely do. Somebody actually commented. I posted the like a clip on Reddit, and they
Yeah.
said, "My God, the hair." I said, "What's wrong with it? I like my hair." He's like, "No, I'm talking about the guy with the long hair." I'm like, "Oh, you made me cry." Just fucking with him.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too. I didn't realize this, but like this was a couple months ago. I found out there's a Murad like hair product line.
Yes, there is. I knew that because I was like typing in Morale. I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" Oh, this is
I was like,
weird.
there are no coincidences.
Yeah, that was strange.
RWA, man.
So, you're definitely passionate about SPX, but why are you passionate about PBAs in general? And also, to just add to that,
Yeah.
why are you passionate about calling them PBAs? Because I think that's been an interesting arc on your part.
Yeah, yeah. So those are both good questions, and I think like one of the flip the stock market episodes that I enjoy the most was the maximalism discussion because I think um, like my stance on this has evolved a lot over time. I think originally I was like very romantic and kind of like a believer that all these things would kind of would work out and could succeed in unison, and in
Yeah.
fact, probabilistically would succeed in unison. And so I always kind of had that belief. That was like my starting point. And I think the tariff sell-off in general was like a really good test of that
Hmm.
thesis because I'm sure you've seen it before when you're a part of like a community that is kind of just socially deprecating. It's a very number one, it's a shitty feeling, and
Yep.
number two, it's like you realize like it's a very difficult thing to undo.
Yeah.
You can't really like you can't save a community or like a chart that was mercenary to begin with, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And and I think I don't want to say I learned that the hard way. I just think I started watching very closely like the social actions of people. And I've started to think about this a lot like recently. It's really interesting like if to extrapolate on like Murad's spirituality X finance thing, which I totally agree with. You kind of have reached this point where even stocks or some of these like traditionally modelable assets are are not really fundamentally valued anymore. And
Oh
therefore,
no. Yeah.
everything just becomes like this game of supply and demand. And therefore, memes are actually like the purest version of that, right? Because
Hmm.
it's like, it's the most honest interpretation of what an asset is, which is just purely how many people want to hold it, how many people want to buy it. And I think it's really interesting that you can kind of socially observe probably where a token is going to go medium or long term based on how they are coordinating and trying to work together. Like if there's just complete silence and there's no kind of plan and it's like a word token or something, yeah, I mean, it's not great in my eyes, right? And so that's kind of how my initial view on that has evolved a little bit because I used to be very much so like a little bit closer to like the 2021 kind of not full WAGMI, but like oh like these a lot of these like
Yeah.
like there are a lot more of these cults than I think there actually were
Yeah.
in a scarier time. And so like I've definitely have evolved since then, and I've kind of tried to ask myself like again, that question, if it went to zero, like would I feel justified in that journey? Um, and I agree that like these things are really just they're comprised of their people, and so they are their people,
Hmm.
right? They're their people plus like, the mission behind the coin. And so if you don't have a mission statement, if you don't have people who are trying to like bring that token to life in some capacity to accomplish that mission, then I find it really hard for that to be separated from the 10 trillion other versions
Yep.
of like a coin with an idea that
Yep.
you're just drawing a line up on a chart for. And so I think I've refined a lot my idea of like what is a pure belief asset. I've really leaned into that term. I don't know if it's the optimal term. I think that Tan's made a really good point like a month or two ago that, and I agree with him that SPX is kind of like elevated beyond PBA. Uh, I, I think like in theory, anything is a PBA, right?
Yeah.
I think like if what I said earlier is true that everything's supply and demand, then realistically everything could be some form of belief that I don't know that future people will buy it or
I
whatever.
think PBA is a nicer way to say meme coin, and we believe
Yeah.
SPX is a beyond a meme coin, so you can say it's
Yes.
beyond. But it's a better way to say a meme coin. Sounds better.
Yeah, it is. I think like a lot, basically the origin of this is that Monj actually came to me and was like, I hate the term meme coin in general.
Yeah.
And then I started saying cult coin a lot more because I was like,
And I
that
think he don't like that. He doesn't like that either.
no,
He doesn't like
he
the word
hated that
cult.
too.
Yeah.
And actually, my girlfriend like saw me typing that once like a
Like
while
what the
ago.
fuck are you writing?
She was literally like, yeah, she was like, are you in a cult? And I was kind of like, kind of
Perhaps.
like, yeah.
Perhaps.
So I was like, okay, that's like probably not very retail
Cult coin.
friendly.
No, it's
I,
not. Yeah, and
I
it's
also
so
I also
obvious too
gave
when
her
he says it. It's like, yeah, duh.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think it was just like more local to when there were a million of these runners all the time, like it made more sense. But I think without that context, it just seems like kind of weird.
Well, now they all call themselves cult coins. So even the
Right.
daily runner's a cult coin, which is ridiculous.
Right. And so I think movement coin's a great term. I
Yeah.
just like, it's not, I don't know. I think there's a couple of these terms and in my eyes, like it's bullish that it's hard to describe these because
Yeah.
they are a lot of things. I think you see a similar thing with Bitcoin in the sense that like, yeah, it's a currency. Yeah, it's also a store of value.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like theoretically digital gold. It could be used for
Yep.
all these things. And so I've always found that it's the same thing. There's a similar principle with AI. Like AI could be an agent, it could be like your personal assistant, it could be all these things. And so, I find that is like a really good thing to try to spend time on because, the odds are you're just kind of minimizing the amount of, I guess, like traps that you'll find in the market because maybe if one thesis doesn't play out there's 15 others that
Hmm.
might be true. um but yeah, so I guess I've refined like what I deem to be a pure belief asset, but I ultimately think like two things. I think number one, like these tokens have to have, like it has to have a mission statement,
Yep.
it has to have a goal, it has to have holders who are actively trying to make that goal a reality.
Hmm.
I think that can be more abstract. And that's where I like differ slightly from like the hardcore maximalist. I do think that SPX is absolutely like the de facto best example of that. But I think that there are other versions of that could work really well.
Hmm.
And I still think that like as a category, these are very early days. And so, I think it's interesting to like think through what are other versions of this that like could work out. But I think, yeah, it has to have a mission statement. It has to have holders that are working toward an active goal. Has to have like DCAers. Has to have people that are, essentially dedicating a routine part of their day to what this is trying to become. And I also think it has to spiritually like resonate with people. Like I think there's a lot of ways SPX taps people's psyches. I think Giga is probably the second best example of that. And I think there are other versions too. But I think that ultimately, like if you are tested with time and like bad price action, and I don't know, your favorite KOL leaves, or like things get 70% quieter, you're gonna sell probably, and you're gonna like probably stop contributing if it doesn't resonate with you at such a level that you basically just have full commitment to the mission. And so I don't know, my thought process has always been like the concentration of coins that I feel that the most with. are just probabilistically like have the highest potential to pull other people in too, because I spend so much time like in these communities that someone who gets a 10% glance at them will probably eventually reach like a similar-ish conclusion.
Yeah, I do think SPX attracts people disproportionately. I mean, more so than others, and I believe,
Yep.
and I think it's reflected in the price.
Yep.
I think it's because the mission is grander and it's more abstract, and I think you can identify with it like a lot of ways. And that's
Yeah.
not to throw shade at Giga or
No,
Tech or
I agree.
Bitcoin and the other ones, but
Yeah.
it's something. It's bigger. I think that's why it's attracts a lot of people, and it's what definitely why I'm more involved. And I do own some of
Yeah.
the other coins, and I do show support. But it's only this is the only coin I support verbally or however
Yeah.
you want to actually promote.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's great too. I don't see any like I guess glory in saying one side is right or wrong. Like I think whatever resonates most with you
Yep.
makes most sense. I agree with you. I think that like SPX just has the highest total addressable market. Like it's
Yeah.
the easiest to understand. It's the easiest to start contributing to. It has the most active people. Like it's the most digestible. And I agree with you. It's reflected in the price. And there's a reality to that like there is no chart, but it does
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
new people feel more comfortable. I think that like, hey, there's a lot of long-termism for these people in this, right? So yeah, I agree with you, and I think it'll always be. I guess like things can change, but I think it's very clearly established itself as the category leader. And Grimace talks about this a lot, and I think it's super true. And Grimace is a super underrated Aeon in general,
Oh
but
yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
he's awesome. But he was like a Bitcoin early Bitcoin like 2012
Really,
Bitcoin.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I don't think he held all of it, but he definitely
Still early to it. Yeah.
yeah, like held enough kind of thing. And he bought SPX after the coach candle like at like 2 million. And
Ah.
his thought process was that if you get these established coins after like the kind of like dev whatever, like the core contributor supply clears out, like that will be basically be the perma bottom forever, which in this case like was more than correct, right? And he hasn't sold any, and I think that he has done a really good job of articulating like that SPX has brought some very real innovations to meme coins to PBAs even to elevate them beyond both into a proper like movement, something that's bigger than either of those things. The commandment, like the commitment to like lack of traderism, the going multi-platform, like the DCAing, like these are innovations, and so it's easiest to innovate when you have like a team of hyper loyal people, and yeah, I think it's no surprise that like there's a snowball effect to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that leads me to another question. I know you're not a maxi, of course. Do you feel though the SPX mission, how grand it is and epic and scope, does that ever make you feel like your other coins that you do support feel like less of a priority?
100%. Yeah. I think I've struggled. I've debated this a lot in my head. And there have been times where I've been like, I mean, do I just like full port this shit and not look back, right? Um,
Oh, me too.
uh,
I've questioned it many times. Yeah,
yeah, and I think
especially
like,
right now. I'm very tempted, but yeah.
oh, right, yeah, current prices. That's a great point. Yeah, I think like uh, the reason that I have not done that is kind of twofold. I think the first is like I've spent a lot of time
Hmm.
with a lot of other communities, and the same way that I feel loyal, maybe not the exact same, because I think I've spent more time on SPX. I've like a lot more of like the way that I think about things is derived from like that community, and so I feel extra loyal, I think, to SPX in general, which is why I've just like, and I'll get to this in a second, but I've just removed like all price targets for myself. I think that's been the best personal solution. Is I will sell some of my other coins at certain prices, and like currently how I'm thinking, like I'll hold. uh, I'll hold some Giga multi-cycle, uh, whatever that means. I mean, who even knows what that means anymore?
Right.
But because I like Giga Fitness. I like
Over a let's say a 4 year time,
sure,
something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
medium term,
You
I
know,
guess.
I won't be, but I just won't be touching my SPX, and I'll just be DCAing. And so like to me, that is the most uh like that line of thinking like helped me kind of the most mentally basically like solve for like a situation where I'm basically like in three buckets. Like number one, I have my SPX. I know I have my SPX. I'm not going to touch my SPX. I'm going to continue to just contribute DCA and be as involved as I can be. Number two, I have these like limited other coins that I think have a ton of potential. I really like the
Yeah.
people, like what it stands for. It still means something to me. And so
Yes.
I don't want to like I feel bad leaving that behind
Right.
because it's still
Yep.
significant to me and I have relationships there too. And then the third is uh I just cut the ones that didn't fit those criteria
Yeah.
and that I feel comfortable like it just is what it is, right? I don't see that as like trading. It's just kind of like, like these are kind of like literal angel like Aeon investments.
Yep.
And so if something doesn't fit the criteria, like that's okay.
Yep.
And so basically like from the tariff sell-off to like today, I think I cut my portfolio in terms of like total assets. Like I basically just have four coins now, and then I recently bought a couple other ones that LP'd with SPX that have people that have been rating and trying super hard for a long time. I just bought like a small amount because I was just like like I support like the if you guys are gonna do new stuff, this is the right way to do it. And so like good luck and keep going
Yep.
basically.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I used to do that a lot more, but it's for me mentally. I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean? I don't want to think about
Yeah.
it.
Oh, it's
I
fair.
want
Yeah.
to get rid of that mental load. But
Yeah.
I do have some. I do still have bags from the communities I care about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's
So I
for
can
me,
always do
it's
that.
really only like four coins, and
Yeah.
then like I said, super small, Aeon checks was like how I like to think about it in these other ones for that purpose. But exactly, I agree with you. Like it's small enough and I've talked to Frothos a lot about this, like that, it's not something you're thinking about because otherwise, 100%, you'll just basically you sit there like your palms sweat and you're like, what if these were SPX tokens?
Yeah. No,
So
the other criteria I've had is like if you don't think it's going to be multi-cycle. I know you have some, which I think you call them the homie bags, like whatever.
yeah,
But like for your other like Giga, I think it's Apu and Tigger Bitcoin, I believe.
yeah.
So for those, you believe those are multi-cycle, I assume.
I've kind of sized proportionate to my belief in that.
Okay.
Um, I think that I personally think that like that SPX, Giga, and Apu have the best chance of that in that order. And there are probably like some gaps between those, but I personally like those coins resonate the most with me. And
Gotcha.
so I've only formally, I guess, like planned uh, for myself that I will like hold SPX in Giga multi-cycle. I'm kind of
Sure.
like like waiting to see how the others develop. And I might not. And there's always a scenario where like if you do think something's multi-cycle, like you could just DCA back in, right?
Yes.
For whatever reason. And so, yeah, I mean, the only one I feel truly comfortable with is like SPX in full capacity. The reason that I feel comfortable with Giga outside of like what the token stands for and the people that I've met is I think the idea of Giga Fitness is really
Yeah, that's
interesting.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've kind of gotten more involved in that. And so I don't know, I'm bullish on like kind of what that could become. And so I want to keep myself incentivized to like remain actively involved in that. But yeah, I mean, I think basically I've totally like I've thought about everything you're saying. I think there's a ton of merit to it. And honestly, if I was talking to a third party, I'd tell them like, yeah, if you think one is the de facto has the highest probability of winning, you should probably full port it or be, damn close, right?
And really, what I mean, I own those, but I deep down, let's say the traditional cycle is still here, and say
Yeah.
tomorrow we go into a bear market, some crazy war breaks out, Bull
Sure.
market's over. Do you think the coins will survive? That has been my criteria for coins that I'm willing
Right.
to keep. And I do believe
Yeah.
Harry Potter, Tigger Bitcoin, Giga, and Apu specifically, obviously SPX will survive that. I do believe that.
Yeah.
I believe more in SPX, but I don't know how low it would get or what would happen, but I do
Yeah.
feel like it would come back.
I agree with you. I think that, well, so I like I guess my view on that has somewhat evolved, in the sense like I used to think it was just basically like if we think about it as just like supply and demand, then the most constrained supply eventually attracts the most elastic demand. But there are actually just too many crypto assets now, and there are
Yeah.
too many with even meme coins, even PBAs, right? I
Hmm.
mean, there's only so much unless there's a wealth effect, which I personally think SPX is most likely to create. um, then it's very difficult to justify. And I think anyone who's like kind of pitched SPX to like a very wealthy person has found, it's like it's a pretty, the pitch is received quite well in general, I would say. But I think when you kind of like you go, and this is even talking about those four coins, but if you go really deep into meme coins and you just start pitching a generalist meme coin, like they're gonna think you're stupid and they're gonna be like, that's enough talking, you know what I mean? Like
You're
out of my
done.
office kind of thing. And
Yeah, I mean, dog with hat is a retail coin. If retail's not driving
yeah,
it, it's over.
right, exactly. Like
Yeah,
there's no reason it should be worth any dollar amount. And that could be a bull case. The question then becomes, why is that a bull case over, I don't know, dog coin number 300 or cat coin number 24 or like whatever, right? Unless there's some conspiring to make it that. And so
yeah,
I do agree. Like, so I say all that to say, like, I think they would all survive. Absolutely.
yeah.
I do think there's a difference between surviving and thriving.
Right. Yep.
And I do think that like SPX would have the highest probability of thriving in any circumstance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's proven that. And so that's why I just got the most comfortable with like I used to kind of like try to discuss with myself like, okay, like at this point I'll do this, or I'll like sell some here. And eventually I just realized like the actual like process of trying to do that was more draining than just DCAing and like contributing.
Yep.
And so I was like, you know what? Like let's just go for it. I would rather, 69 trillion or die trying, basically.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah, it is something I contemplate, but
Yeah.
I feel like I've made my bed, and I cut the
Yeah.
ones that I don't believe are multi-cycle. That's basically where I've landed.
Same here.
Yeah.
And I think that is like I think that in general, if that's ever like a thought process someone's reaching, where they're kind of like, oh, I'm holding this until X. If you're a trader, sure. But like if you're trying to hold it for some like altcoin.d drop to Y%, like just just put it in the teeny tinies, like
Yes.
stop trying stop trying to overcomplicate.
Yes. Yes. For sure. For sure. And yeah, that leads me to the next question. When we're talking about
Yeah.
bear markets, what are your plans to contribute over the next year, 2 years? Let's
Yeah.
say we repeat the same 21 cycle and
Sure.
2026 is 2022. Um, and
Yeah.
we're in a deep bear market. How do you see that going?
It's a good question. I mean, I think the real answer is like I would want to try to evaluate like where I could help most. Because it might look different, than it did in like Q1 of or Q2 of this year, what have you.
Hmm.
I think if the cycle played out as it has in the past, uh, I have been really fascinated by this idea of like kind of building tangible kind of I guess like supporting products.
Yeah.
And so that could also create like a treasury that then there are like many uses for, right? If okay, let's play out an example. Let's say there was an SPX company. I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah.
It could be software. It could be like merch. It could be some IRL space. I don't know. Let's say that existed, and it's similar to like a traditional company. There's revenue. you pay some employees. I think it'd be really cool if those employees were uh, were contributors in some form, or like
Mm-hmm.
Aeons or holders or what have you. And then with all remaining profits, you essentially buy back the token, and then you can use those as bounties for like various things that need to happen. I've found that idea to be really interesting, and I've thought a lot about this idea of like equity first models. I think that as the dollar has been,
Yeah.
speed to zero, like you basically, I don't know if you've seen this in your peers, but like there's been an obsession, I think, in the last, call it 10 to 20 years with like investing and equity, whether that's in the form of real estate or like stocks or crypto or what have you. It's like it's all about owning assets. And I think like the biggest reason for that has just been that there's so much money supply now that, it's actually the only way to potentially get ahead is to beat the hurdle rate. And if you're really behind, it's to beat, the hurdle rate of Bitcoin. And
Yeah. Right.
and so like I just think that it's actually solves a lot of problems that a traditional company has, which is that it starts with centralized supply, and you have to find these marginal buyers to buy both your products, but also your equity as time goes on to get a valuation that's any sort of substance. And so I think I think it was 5G has called these just coin like these like PBAs or movement coins, whatever you
Sure.
want to call
Sure.
them. They have the potential to be like digital nation states, and I think that
Oh yeah. Yep.
SPX is like starting to resemble that. You can
I
see
have.
it. It's on, I mean, right? Because you're in
Mm-hmm.
the Instagram group chats, you're in the TikTok group chats, like you make YouTube content. It's now sort of omnipresent, number one. And number two, like you actually have like a distributed workforce essentially and you also have distributed consumers who, like, if things were very high quality and very well done, are really passionate about the brand already. And so you basically solve this cold start problem where you have like a really strong brand, you have like a bunch of notoriety and theoretical customers, and you have the ability to do like good for them
Yep.
in some capacity, whether that's from giveaways or like bounties or like basically what if free cult labor was paid is kind of where I'm going with that. And I just think it's a really interesting concept. So like, and also bear market, obviously you need flows, right? You need some form of um, like some buys to like kind of keep things in good shape. And so I don't know. That's something I've been thinking a lot about. I also really like just like the general video culture in SPX. I think it's really inspiring. I think it's like very like a lot of the edits are just some of the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And
For
I'd
sure.
love to like maybe try to replicate that or something, but I'm starting so behind there that I don't know how I'd do. So yeah, I think like for now, like I'll continue to basically like try to evangelize as much as I can. I I basically had some concerns from someone close to me that I didn't want like my face on every single platform all the time in these like form,
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading.
basically being like
Saw.
buy this coin, in case it like fails and people get upset or something, and which I understand, and like
Yeah.
they're close enough to me that I respect them enough that like I have thought through another approach to that, and so I'll return to that shortly. So I think like the creation of content and the way that the I guess I've been doing it,
Yeah.
I'll continue to do. And then I think if the cycle played out the way that it quote unquote always has, like I would love to go full time into like SPX
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Giga to some extent, and just and like I said, like try to find like a more elevated way to contribute that like taps into some of my background, I
Yep.
guess.
No, that makes sense for sure. So, but you are you planning on doing the podcast for the
Oh
foreseeable
yeah,
future?
yeah.
Yeah.
I have no I don't really have any like unless someone has to drop from it or something, and then we'll see how that evolves if so. But I have no plans to stop doing it. I really enjoy it, to be honest. I think it's a good mental exercise. And I will say there've been a couple good ideas floated around about flip the stock market. One of which is like, basically in the weeks that were off, like
Yeah.
off,
Mm-hmm.
what if we like interviewed someone from the community,
That'd be
which I think
cool.
would be great, but I also think we have a lot of people doing that. And then the other idea, which I think is awesome, from Matt Beck is like, basically, we grew the what if we grew the podcast substantially and it became essentially like the medium for Aeons to use. And so, like it doesn't have to just be us. Like if Mike wanted to do his spaces, like that's also his account and he can do that there as well, right?
Hmm.
Like if there's some big interview and or it doesn't even have to like it doesn't have to be the more notable figures, I guess, who I guess like use it. It can be streamed and kind of utilized as a brand by other people who are working hard and contributing. And so we'll see how that evolves, but I have no plans to like stop doing any of that. I think it's very fun.
Yeah, you could instead of. I mean, I think the interview. I mean, I think there's so many Aeons you could. There's
There
plenty of
are.
room
I
for that.
mean,
I'm not gonna
there's
be able to interview everybody. It's impossible. So I
yeah,
think there's plenty of room for that, especially if it only be like every other
it's
week.
true.
And another thing is another thought based on what you just said to kind of showcase things. It could be like, hey, I've got this really cool idea. I really want to show it off. Like that. Have you seen Chiron's like? I can't think. I don't know
Yeah.
if
Is Miro board?
yeah. So maybe you do it like the off week. You invite or they maybe you could say like an open casting call almost. Like give us your
Yeah.
ideas. You know what I mean? And then you can come and show it. That sort of thing.
100%. That's a great 100%. That's a great example.
Might be
Like I
like a
think
twist on the interview, kind of.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be and who knows? Like I know like Monge obviously Nick likes to too, but Monge has asked people before to do like, do you want to do like man on the street kind of interviews where you ask people stuff? There's a million things it
Yeah,
could
there's
be.
so many things. Yeah, there's so
Yeah,
much
that
stuff
are
that can
all
happen.
awesome, you know, uh, and I'm down for all of those. I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily like I think that there are different either hosts of Flip the Stock Market or Aeons in general that are best suited for it. But I think in general, like the number one goal I have, and I think a lot of Aeons have right now, is truly just like awareness building because I think
Yes.
we all know we have a generational
Yes.
idea, product, movement, like essentially like the tokenization of decades of angst against like a system that has betrayed the common person. And frankly, like there's just a lot of people who don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
That's the biggest hiccup in my eyes.
Yeah. I had this idea. If it does work out well for us, which I believe it will, if it does, I had this idea like where I could rent. There's this place near my in my hometown where it's like they've converted a mill into like all these different kind of businesses,
Mm,
and one of them
cool.
is like, hey, rent this space, and you can there's a big space. I guess my thought was, what if you like hired a bunch of people who were Aeons, like you just like have this, you have like these dividers, have like maybe like 20 people just like on TikTok live talking about SPX like all day long,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just like keep them
That's an
coming
awesome
in.
idea. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, and that's
Like right now, it would make sense, but if we grew to that level, that would be
yeah,
crazy. That'd be awesome.
totally. I also think like Nick, I think is a great example of someone who, I think leans into like more of a Gen Z. Like I'm on the cusp of like Gen Z millennial.
Yep.
I probably identify a little more with Gen Z, but like who is just down to like, I don't know, go make content where he's like talking to people and like trying to onboard them. And I think that at scale is super interesting, has a ton of
Hmm.
potential. There's a lot of things that could happen. It's I was listening to your I didn't realize his name was Ilya, but your
No, I
Ilya.
didn't either. I was like, "It's I love you, Aeon," right? It's like, no, it's not. It's Ilya. I'm like,
So
and then I didn't understand him at first, and then later on, I was like, "Oh, I get it."
yeah, I was a little confused at first too. So I was just like, this is the cleverest name of all time. Like I don't,
Yep.
like
Yep.
why are we walking back from it? And then I realized his name. So but I was listening to that one and like, why he kind of spun up the like Google Earth. And I think obviously there's been a lot of discussion about like doxing in general
Hmm.
for Aeons, which I think is warranted to talk about. But one of the I think amazing things about that, and he mentioned it, is that like anyone can put anywhere and anything and who knows how that evolves. And I think scale is like the biggest safety net there in the sense that like when there are 100,000, like 1 million people on that Google Earth, like I don't know, like for each like subset of people, the theoretical scariness of it, I think, depreciates.
Hmm.
There's less of a lone wolf situation. there's more safety in numbers. And also you could see a world where like, I don't know, the younger generations are way more comfortable like meeting up online for certain things. Hey, we're all near the mill that you're mentioning. Let's go do this, right? And they live stream it or something. And I could see a world where that evolves to such a point that you know who the Aeons are in your neighborhood, in your community, and SPX can be anything for anyone. I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about it. And so, who knows how that could manifest, like as people connect more, like in real life, even virtually, but especially when like they know that they're within proximity. Um, yeah, I think that's just like that there's infinite potential. We can't even like fully wrap our heads around yet.
Yeah, no, I agree. That does lead me to another question.
Yeah.
Um, like in real life events, do you think that how do you think that will manifest? Do you think like an SPX convention, sort of like how they do a Bitcoin type of conventions? Do you think that will ever happen, or do you think that'll happen sooner rather than later?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think like working in the industry has made me more wary. Like traditionally, I'm a very lax person when it comes to uh, I don't know, like meetups and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Like I'm very down to do it, but I think that definitely working in the industry, I understand why people are a little bit more anonymous and like, there are people who prefer kind of that approach to things. But generally, I think that I also think for what it's worth, like if you're like an OG, that probably makes sense for you to do. You know what I mean? Like otherwise, there's people who probably ask you for things, and who knows, right? But I think as time goes on, as SPX evolves, as it matures, as it grows, like I think that the likelihood of IRL events happening goes up a lot. I think the risk of them happening goes down a lot. I think that, critical mass is like a beautiful thing because um, the less there's just like again, there's safety in numbers, and the less, I guess, like social kind of fear and stigma there is around these things, the higher probability there is that people are just down to be associated with it in some capacity. And so I absolutely think that that's likely. And I think I saw recently Aeon One and Aeon Girl.
Hmm.
They went to like a music festival or like it was a crypto party slash DJ. I don't know,
I don't.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah, something like
I
that.
know that obviously like everyone met up in London that like Seb
Yeah.
kind of created. So I think we're seeing early kind of stages of this. I think it's a natural, like, I think it's really hard to care about this stuff as much as we do and have it grow as much as it has and not have people want to connect with the people that they're speaking to every day if they know they're close. So I think it's to some extent an inevitability. Will it manifest in like the like kind of like the traditional Bitcoin conference, or just crypto route? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that people will meet up more and more and
Absolutely. Yeah.
kind of take the message IRL more and more.
Yeah. I think Seb, I don't know who he said. Seb said somebody was flying to London or something. They're going to meet up and do a
Really?
video. I can't remember who it was. I was like, who is that? And I forgot to rewind it. But
Oh
anyways,
man,
so
that's awesome.
and
I
I
mean,
think I think Nick is meeting up with Monj at some point to do
yeah. I think
something.
they got to meet up. Yes, I mean that's a great example.
Or they, or maybe they already have. They're going to make some videos or something.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the doxing like is also a big contributing factor to that too. Because it's like you start to see someone's face, you hear their voice,
right.
it becomes more intimate. You feel like you know them a little better, and it just becomes a little less like random to be like, hey, let's meet up, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think they got to do that, and that's awesome. I think that's a great example of how that kind of stuff can develop, and the friends become friends, and the network grows, and all of a sudden you know someone that they know, and it's butterfly effect,
Well,
right?
and I talked to Jeffrey, the Reddit.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, he told me he lives right near Batman. It turns out, like where Batman got his
that's
shirt
awesome.
created. He
Like where the
actually,
lightning happened.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
no
he,
way.
so he went and got so where Batman got his shirt created. That's where exactly where Jeffrey got his, he had the shirt on when I talked to him, and he went to the same dude.
Man.
They got him
Oh,
to
that's
they
so
got the T-shirt guy to buy SPX too, which I thought was funny.
Oh, that's great. I mean, yeah, you have to if you got multiple people coming in there asking for the shirt, like
Well,
you gotta.
he was a crypto guy, so it wasn't too hard.
Oh, okay, okay, nice,
So it
nice.
wasn't that big of a lift
That's
there.
amazing.
Yeah, no, I could see what I think would be really cool is if somebody rented like, and obviously you'd have to do it in a way that would make sense cost wise, get like reservations and that sort of thing. But rent like what do you call it, the ballroom at a hotel, that sort of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
for like a
totally.
weekend or something, and then make it to where you have people who do talks and like
Yeah,
basically like Twitter Spaces, but in real life. I just think it'd be
yeah.
awesome.
I totally agree. I see something like that having a higher probability of playing out for SPX. Where everyone kind of like whatever your personal view is. Like for instance, I said I like the kind of theoretical like company evolution. Like that appeals to me a lot, right? You know, there are other people who might have there might be other aspects of SPX that appeal to other people in its evolution, right? I see something like you're describing where people come together to share those ideas in a more kind of discipline, like a more disciplined format, and then still have fun. Don't get me wrong. Having a higher probability than say like, and this isn't meant in a diss kind of way, but like Mog at Art Basel or something. Like I don't see. I see SPX people like having fun together, but I also like I think it's such a mission driven idea that I can see people like wanting to work hard too as part of it, as opposed to just kind of like I don't know celebratory vibes because if the stock market's not flipped, like job's not done, right?
That reminds me of some crypto event that happened in like March,
Mm.
and there was that guy who was like doing that weird dance,
Oh
and he was
yeah,
the
yeah,
whiff
yeah, the
guy.
whiff
That's
guy,
the whiff guys.
dude. That was yeah, like. I see that as less unless we teleport to like $1,000 tomorrow. I don't see that as likely. But I guess you never know.
He was having the mushroom effect, the pure euphoria.
Yeah, he was with guy. If dancing with guy, if you're listening to this, pivot to SPX to get back there mentally.
Oh my god, yeah, that was epic. I have to say. Oh, I do miss March. Oh, that was last 2024. That was,
Yeah,
whew,
that was a lot going on there.
that was
We'll get
so.
back there.
Yeah, I know, I know, but because I wasn't really even in. I mean, hell, you could just hold Bitcoin, Solana. You're feeling euphoric. You're feeling great. Like
Yeah,
anything, you're doing good.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's true. It's been I'm sure you saw the like Solana Dex trading volume like going. I think it was just Solana. It might have been all Dexes. I think it was Solana.
Okay.
Like it basically, it was like it was obviously like from 2024, like up, Trump coin launch, and then it was like
Oh,
straight down into tariffs, and then it kind of steadily climbed up a little bit, and then the last like month it's like all fresh lows. Like there's basically, I mean, there's nothing happening, right?
right.
And I was thinking about this yesterday because I just saw so much Labor Day FUD, and so many it's overs and all this other stuff, and I was just kind of like, I don't like, it's sometimes and I like to keep my timeline a tiny bit impure because I like to see what
Okay.
like the general population's thinking. So I keep like a little bit of these like kind of big accounts that, I don't know, try to make these calls on there just because I like 80-90% like Aeons and then like the other PBA people I've connected with. But I keep a little bit of that just to kind of see like it helps me like have an idea of like, okay, how much is like the average person struggling? What are they thinking about? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And uh yeah, it was doom and gloom yesterday. And yeah, I saw that chart and I was just kind of like, I mean, I know it's like it sucks, but it's like it's just like you should be DCing even harder,
Yeah.
right? Because it's quieter. And then when you get like the whiff guy dancing situation, you're not,
Yeah.
you were early in the room, you're the guy dancing now.
I love that video. Oh my
It is.
god.
That is a moment in history. I think that guy was on something.
High on dogs, man.
He was on the cognosphere.
Cognospheric high. The dog with hat. The oh yeah. Well, and I'd also say I think a lot of it is that they don't know what to buy anymore. They have no idea what to
Yeah.
buy. So if you're
Well,
not
yeah.
DCAing it or believing anything, you have no idea. You don't. You're totally aimless.
And that's again, like I think that's like kind of a good thing in a lot. I mean, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like to I don't know, to just like it there it's I guess there's a byproduct of that that kind of just feels harsh, I think, to people who haven't been here a long time, like, oh, is crypto dying? Is this bigger than the individual coin that maybe I believe in, or in general, like, is this stuff all just screwed? Which obviously has been, crypto's been proclaimed dead a trillion times, and I'm sure it will
Yes,
continue to
yes.
be. And I personally don't think it ever will be, and I have very high hopes for like what it will become on like a 10-year time frame, for instance. But like it's a good thing because it forces, unless you're either A, insane, or B, like really wealthy or something, like, or I guess just completely delusional, like it gets people out of the kind of, I guess, the random middling coins that were
Yeah.
probably never going to make it, that just honestly needed to die. And the longer it takes for those to die, like the longer the capitulation is, it's honestly, again, I know it's like can be painful for some people, but like it's a really good thing for the very, very few good coins and for the best coin, because ultimately when people come back, when things start looking appetizing again, the options they have are just way more limited.
Well, I think a lot of people thought we're so back when Bitcoin hit like 120 the other day,
Yeah.
and really it was pretty much isolated. I mean, Ethereum did well, and SPX was doing well, and a few other coins were doing okay, but it was pretty isolated. It was not. It was
Yeah.
not March 2024 or December 2024 type feeling. It was nothing like that.
I'm curious, like, what do you I know we were talking a little bit before this about, like TradFi involvement. What do you think that is? Do you think it's as simple as like basically the buyers of BTC don't rotate down anymore just because they're purely institutional, or like what's your take on that?
Um, I think a lot of that is true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know for sure. But I think a lot of the reason why Bitcoin and recently why Ethereum has done so well is just the corporate treasury thing, because because the Ethereum treasuries have taken off big time, and Solana treasuries have taken off too, and that's why Solana is doing okay, even with absolutely horrible numbers. Nothing fundamental really backing it at this point.
Yeah.
It's just it's a trade. TradFi is keeping these things afloat.
Yeah. 100%. I agree.
I just don't think
Yeah.
retail's here. Retail's not here at all.
No, they're not here at all. I mean, and I guess like retail's reactive in nature, right? Like they like to come when they feel like they're missing out on something, or they hear someone they know is like doing really well, and they feel like fear is a stronger motivator than optimism, right? And so I think that forces retail to come in like very short spurts, and so it makes sense that they're not. I mean, retail knows Bitcoin's kind of like more or less like up only sort of like, it going from 110 to 120 or 120 to 125, like, is no longer the kind of like sexy FOMO inducing thing that it was when in 3 weeks it went from 18K to 65K,
Right.
right? Last, like in 2020, 2021. So I think yeah, I agree. Like, I think that the DATs are probably a big part of it. I also just think it's a different game now.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that makes sense.
But I mean, I think that's keeping altcoins from bleeding even worse, honestly.
Yeah,
Because
it's
if
true.
Bitcoin was getting wrecked like it normally would, the other memes and everything else would get wrecked even more. So
Yeah.
I guess we all owe a debt of gratitude to TradFi at this moment. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not too worried about it.
Sucks they got to get flipped.
Yep. Yeah. I know
Wow.
exactly. I mean, it's all about growing it, and I do think when things start really taking off, people will get interested and want to take more risk, and that's when SPX will do really well.
Yeah, I
Yep.
totally agree.
Um, one other question, or
Sure.
several other questions actually. How do you see the Project Aeon's NFT project fitting in with the
Hmm.
overall mission? Like, how do you see that fit?
I think Aeon's, first of all, artistically, I think they're very, I think they embody SPX well, in the sense that they are like just, they appear very, they have this like duality to them where they appear very like kind of cute, innocent, wholesome. Um, I don't know, just kind of like approachable, but also, um, like some of them especially, but really all of them like are very like they also kind of have this like almost look of like fierce killer instinct, which I
Yeah.
think is very cool. So artistically, I always really appreciate when uh like an NFT project that's associated with a meme really embodies like what the culture stands for. So yeah, I think that that is super cool. How do I see it playing a role? I think that I've thought about this a little bit. Obviously, like they're only 3,330. I don't know if it's four or three. I always presumed it was three, but I think OpenSea says four. But either way, there's a limited amount. Obviously, like way less Aeons than there are just generalist SPX supporters,
Oh yeah.
and so I think they will become like a form of almost like a I don't know, like a super luxury watch kind of thing, but obviously specific to SPX, specific to crypto.
Yep.
Um, I think that uh, I have my own thoughts on like basically does because I remember Mung was talking about this like 2 or 3 weeks ago, that like basically SPX can't really or sorry TradFi can't really reliably I don't want to misquote him, but it was something along the lines of like, if they buy SPX, if they set up a treasury company or something like that, then they're kind of admitting, it's their own joke, right? They can't really get in on the joke because there's like such an inherent irony in that it kind of forces their hand, which I totally understand and I don't even inherently disagree with. But I think that if we keep growing at the rate that we are and we succeed in the way, even I don't know, even like an iota of what we think we can do, then they'll just, I mean, they'll want to get involved. Like they'll do it. Like they're not going to ask for permission, right? And so, there could be like a war, there could be an arms race war, there could be, I don't know, right? I think it's an interesting thing to think about, but I ultimately think that Aeons are will head to a place where it is going to be very, very difficult to obtain one,
Yeah.
and that like it probably will be some form of like the PayPal mafia to PayPal, like Aeons will be to SPX, and there could be people who try to get in on that, but I think you'll see it'll be like a very heavily OTC, low volume, not a lot of trading. Like eventually it will be very, very high floor, 6 figures, 7 figures kind of thing. And so I've kind of like decided that I'm not. I have another Aeon for like my work stuff. I have my Aeon. Um, and I'm just like, I'm never gonna sell those. Those are just me, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I've got two. I've got two.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah. I
Just
used to
sitting
have
there.
more and I was just kind of like, I mean, these are great, but I kind of would just rather have more tokens, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I do think there if I do think there's a trade there if you're going to trade between them, but I it's not
Yeah,
something
I
I'm
agree.
super
I,
focused
I
on.
also think like if you I don't know if you're like holding them to trade. It's not like there's any ethical or moral reason for that, but you may as well like stack tokens and
Yeah.
then someone else have an Aeon that might be able to use them. Of course, you can always just be like, hey, feel free to right click or what have you.
Yeah.
But that was kind of my thought process. But I think they're an amazing collection. I think they'll play. They're very symbolic of like uh, what we stand for. And I think in like 3 4 years, if you have the ability to buy one, like you'll be very happy you did.
Yeah.
I think it'll be the largest NFT collection
Yeah,
of all time.
the I do I agree. I do think it is heavily dependent on SPX. So we'll say in a world where SPX
Yeah,
failed, Aeons fell.
yeah,
I
I
think there's
agree.
a world though where ticker Bitcoin fails and Sprotos still succeed.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's different. I think Aeons really embody the movement. Sprotos to me are I mean kind of, but not really. In my opinion, it's kind
Yeah,
of its own thing.
I agree. I think Sprotos are just dope art. I actually didn't even know that Sprotos were associated with Ticker Bitcoin when I first got into crypto, and I just thought they were like fucking spooky,
I mean,
And I was
kooky.
like, but it was like spooky in a way that I was just like, these are like so memorable. I'll
Yeah,
never kind of forget that I saw this. Maybe sometimes in a bad way, but mostly in a good way, right?
right.
And but some of them did like legitimately freak me out. I was like, who is the real person
Yeah, some
behind
of them
this?
are wild.
Yeah, they're like scary, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd agree with that. And one of the reasons I'm so bullish like PBAs in general is I just frankly I think that you have this accelerating like increase in people who need a product like SPX for a variety of reasons, but especially financially, they need something that has the ability to like really put them ahead in a
Yeah,
world where they're being squeezed from all angles, and you also at the same time have this kind of like situation where obviously crypto for a long time has been like the only place where you can make like quote unquote a quick 1000x 100x, and by that I mean years, but even then
yeah,
like that's quick in like the grand scheme of history. But historically, like if you were to invest in a startup or something, I mean it's for accredited investors, it's for venture funds, takes 10 years, like you can't touch the money, and so the I guess like the trade-off, the pain is like picking the right projects, number one, and number two, it's like having the just excuse my French, but the balls to hold it, right?
right.
And so that's the trade-off, but that's never really been something people have had access to. And so I think like as a result, there aren't really any other options in crypto, that embody this anymore. There's
No,
no utility. There's no like fair value, launches that people can organically get involved in, no ICOs. And so there are no other options,
pretty
frankly.
much. Yeah,
So yeah, I just think that I struggle to see how SPX I struggle to see how SPX would fail, but I also think, now that I'm saying that out loud, like that sounds kind of complacent. And so, I don't know. You
well,
just have to,
we're doing our part.
yeah,
Yeah, we're doing
yeah,
our part. No, it's hard for me to imagine, maybe because we're so involved.
yeah,
But it definitely could, and we have to keep
it's true.
going.
Yeah,
But
we got to be on top of the ball. And I think it's a good lesson for anyone who's been here for a while, because I think it's easy to see the success it's had and become, I guess, expectant of it.
yeah, well, that's what I
And
saw with the Whiff guys. That they were like, "Oh, we're the one," and then they all started making derivatives, and then it all went
yeah,
to hell.
I mean, 100%. I think that's like that's it's every community I think has there's always going to be a subset of holders that try to do something like that, because you get kind of like followers from a community, and if you're I don't want to say like impure, that feels unfair, but like wherever you are on the gamut, like you could be a legitimate like just straight up scammer, you could be someone who is just kind of like naive and enticed by like a
Yeah,
side of sorts. um there's always going to be some people who try to do something like that. I think it's on the community not to tolerate it, number one, and
yeah,
number two, like hopefully it's not people who are highly, highly like respected OGs. And I think SPX has had the highest percentage of people who have just,
yeah. And especially if it's a derivative. It's not really tolerated, honestly. Like
exactly.
you can buy other coins, but if you start another coin and you're an OG or a which you're
You
not,
get
you're gonna get,
ostracized.
yeah, you're going
Yeah,
to.
and that's super important, because it's number one, it's like social signal not to do that. And number two, like, I think a lot of people forget, because there's not that many new retail people coming in. If you're new to Twitter and you see infighting, or you see like that's why mute and move on so powerful. You see like I don't know, someone who's supposed to be a part of this thing, but he's talking about this other thing, and you just see like all of these quote unquote representatives of your token who are just complete mercenaries. Why would you buy the original one? Like
Yes.
I can totally understand. Like it's very hard to onboard people in that case,
Yeah,
because you're not committed. Like why should a random person get committed?
yeah. I saw Kimi's the Sproto.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a funny one, but he made a very good point. He's like the reason why SPX has succeeded, and the reason why I don't know what the other coin he pointed out was has succeeded is because they only it was Mog. They
Mm.
have succeeded so well is because they only focus on those on their coins. They don't Integra Bitcoin and Sprotos are the oh my god, they're bad about it
They're
too.
a little all over. Yeah.
They're bad about it, and he makes a good
Yeah.
point with that.
I mean, going back to the SPX innovations, I think that obviously there are some great Sprotos, but I think that Sprotos, that's like one of the, I think, difficult parts about being early. I think that the SPX is like cultural, like the commandments, the culture they instilled was an innovation, in the sense that like, and I don't know if that was directly taken as a result of like I wasn't around for it, so I can't speak to it. But I think because they were so early, it was kind of hard to be like it was hard to like think about third order consequences of like, okay, like if this person keeps doing this, other people will feel, okay to go and shill other things. And then all of a sudden, half of our sprotos are shilling other stuff.
That's the problem. Every time Harry Potter or whatever, whatever you call it, Ticker Bitcoin would take off, it happens every time. You
Yeah,
start seeing them shilling random bullshit.
it's true. Yeah, alignment's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And
Not
you know,
all of them, but to be fair, not all of them.
what's that?
Not all of them, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, even a loud minority, like Mung always talks about this. I think he's 100% right. He's talking about Doge, I think, primarily when he talks about it.
Mm.
But he referenced that when he was doing his little, I don't know, dance about ticker Bitcoin and, how I don't know, he was flooding his own coin or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which was pretty entertaining. But, he was like, never underestimate like how much damage 10 toxic people can do or
Yeah.
something, right? And that he saw that in like the Doge community back in the day and like, it set them back a year or two, right? And I think that's
Interesting.
super true, right? If you think about you know, any locker room or just any like organization where you have a couple bad eggs that are kind of unreprimanded, like it, I mean, it can get like ugly.
I mean,
It
yeah,
can cause,
you're
it can cause way more problems than one would expect.
you're not boosted if you're a dick. You're not boosted if you make random shitcoins. You're going to fall out from the community when you act that way. So I
Yeah.
think that's one thing SPX does the best. In my opinion.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Um, are you shocked by the growth of the movement? Does it feel kind of like, wow, look where we are now when we were from let's say, yeah, about a year ago now when you got in October?
Yeah. You know, kind of. Um, but really for two reasons. I feel like the first is like when I got in, I didn't have a full lay of the land. And so I really only like when Murad would do his follow these accounts list stuff, and then when I would see just people posting SPX on the timeline. But back then, right, like September, October last year, though, I mean, there was so much noise that like it was much harder, I
Oh
think, to
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was just like there was way, I mean, there was probably genuinely, I don't know what you think, anywhere from 10 to like 30x the tweets at any given time that were just about, I guess, meme
Random shit.
coins
Yeah,
in general.
yeah.
But not even just meme coins like from a trading POV. There are obviously a lot of those too, but there were also a lot about like believe in like, I don't know, poop cup or like just like random bullshit, right? And so there's just like a lot of these like things that were just slop. I
Yeah.
mean, just
Oh
on the
god.
timeline, right? And I think when the AI meta happened, it was the first time that a
Oh my
lot
god.
got siphoned off, right? Like a lot of like the people who were pretending not to be traders were then like AI maxis, and then I was like, okay,
Dude, that made me that whole. Oh,
that
like,
was
I'm mad when I think about that one. 'Cause
yeah,
I knew
that
so
was,
many people who I thought were actually into PBAs and corners. I'm an AI guy now, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
blocked. Don't ever want to hear
yeah.
from you ever again.
It was so bad, and like it was all the worst people who were like making like calls where the coin actually would go up. It was so frustrating. It's like not even like they would like get the I guess like the trade right, and whenever
Yes.
someone on CT gets a trade right, like they're like, did you like they have some validity that they can show as social proof and be like, look, I did this right. It doesn't matter if I like sold on your head or you didn't get in and you bought the
Right.
top. Like, I did this thing that was good for three people in a private token. Right. So yeah, so like I think it was really hard to tell back then, but I also just didn't really know. It was I was newer, so it was hard to tell like outside of the people I had DM'd and spoken with, I guess who was like a hyper involved Aeon. Um, I do think that I think that I've been uh, impressed by the growth and the passion, um, not only post tariff but also during what has been like pretty boring summer in crypto and
Yeah.
just in general. Like summers are boring in crypto. I think this one's been especially boring. I think that you know like it's people can do anything with their time, and if we're seeing this much passion right now,
Yeah,
And then
this.
like shoulder growth and
Yeah.
all this other stuff. Like, I mean, it's crazy. It's almost hard to keep up with, you know?
Oh yeah.
And I think it's amazing. Like I genuinely I think it's amazing. And I spend like, at least an hour a day thinking about this stuff because I literally can't stop. And I've been amazed at times that I'm like, how am I still thinking about
Obsessed
these
with it. Yeah.
concepts? Yeah, like I'm like I've thought about this a
No,
million.
I'm not kidding. I had a dream the other day. Like I was like scrolling Twitter in my dream, like looking at shit. Like it's fucking
Yeah.
weird. I woke up like, what the fuck? Did I just dream this? The hell is this? And I don't even
That's
remember what the dream
crazy.
was, but it was just like literally my dream was me just fucking around on Twitter looking at SPX shit.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had the same. You have like Tetris brain, where like
Yeah.
you close your eyes and you see the scroll. There
Yeah.
definitely are times where like I don't know if this is best accomplished by like switching platforms or something, but I do think you can get stuck in like Twitter brain, or at
Yeah.
least I have felt that way, where I'm like, oh, like I have this arbitrary goal I've set in my head of like talk about X, Y times, and as a result, like quality suffers, or I'm not even really like thinking as much as I'm not trying hard to like contribute in a way that I'm proud of. I'm kind of just saying stuff and um,
I used to
like
do that pretty bad, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not often. I just kind of get in these lulls, and so
You want to
um,
say something even if it's not meaningful.
right. Well, it's just like you want to be involved, right? You want to be
Right.
part of this, guys.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that like it is important sometimes to like try to, even if it's not a full break, you can still think about stuff. You can still like write or do whatever, but just to kind of like get off of Twitter for a little bit because it can definitely infect you. It's designed to.
Hmm.
But I think I actually think that the podcasts have been a huge help for
Oh
me
yeah.
with
Mhm.
it. It helps me like kind of have like an internal dialogue about stuff without me feeling like I'm just, I don't know,
Dude,
just
yeah.
sitting there.
It's like we're getting our crazy thoughts out of our head and awful
Yes,
and
exactly.
getting it's more human. It's easier to digest
Yeah.
people talking than just reading all the time. So
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons I think we both have done
Mhm.
that. So
And it's validating too, because it's like either, oh, like I'm not alone in thinking that thought,
yes, yes,
or number two, it's like, oh, that's like a slight modification of how I think about it. That's really interesting. Like, let me think about that. Instead of sharing, like kind of recycling the same ideas to yourself, or I don't know. Obviously, most of Twitter is still just kind of there's a lot of slop still. So even if you have a really curated timeline, it can be helpful to just kind of transfer mediums sometimes, in my eyes.
no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are a couple of initiatives that have surprised you? Like what's one or two that
Yeah.
have knocked your socks off or whatever surprised you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that Zaymaka is like I don't know if to call him Sav or
I call him
Zaymaka.
Seb. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard people call him Zab. I don't think that's right, but I
It's,
don't
I
know.
think it's just he told me Seb. He actually
Yeah,
said his name, but I couldn't say it, so I went with
yeah. I
Seb.
think his like not even just like going on the streets, but like making custom signs and like
Yeah,
some megaphone
yeah.
and
Him and
like
his sister do a great job.
man, and like also recruiting people from across the UK because there's a Google like seeing the playing off of various efforts that have occurred, realistically like these different projects that help support the general
Yeah,
just project. It has been really, really cool. I think that's like an amazing example of like actual free cult labor, and I think that was such a cool idea that Murad put out there last year, but I think it got misconstrued. Or maybe taken a little too loosely because there were a lot of people who, like, yeah, okay, you're like contributing in some sense, but I don't know, it's like a tweet a day or something, and it's like
right.
30 accounts, and sure, like that's nice,
Yeah,
but and it's not to say that that's like a bad thing,
yeah,
but really like actually like spending a weekend or like your free time going and doing something in real life, like attaching your name, your face, your identity like to one of these things and like putting blood, sweat, and tears into them, I think is such like an elevated form of free cult labor and is like the actual, I guess, definition in my eyes. And I think it shares a lot of resemblance. Like I've been spending a lot of time recently, like listening to early Bitcoin, like kind of talks, and I guess like a lot of it at the time was like very theoretical, right? But um, I've been listening to a lot of that stuff, and it's very similar. Like it's this idea. that comes in your head and you can't shake it, and it becomes kind of all encompassing, and you just want to find a way to evangelize it, whatever makes the most sense for you. So, it's been really cool to see people come into their own with that. So I think that Seb stuff has been super awesome. I think that I love Aeon Reborn stuff. I think his like the
Oh, mhm.
mosaic and just in general, I know he's made one or two other sites like I think are like awesome, really
Yeah.
well done. On my bookshelf back here, I know you can't quite see. I have the SPX book from
Oh yeah,
Audacious.
audacious. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was super awesome, and I also really liked like a lot of those like really early, or not early, but like I think that more recently now there's like a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of like TikTokers, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think that the early signs, I guess, of like SPX accelerating as like the PBA were there in retrospect, and it was through some of those things like his book. So I read all of that. I read all of that on July 4th vacation. I thought it was awesome. And I was just like, wow. Uh, I actually bought a copy and sent it to my brother because I bought him some SPX for his birthday in February. And, I wanted him to like understand a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so cool. There are all these, like, it's very easy for me to provide
Yeah.
resources. Um, so yeah, so those have been great. I think the general initiatives to like go to multiple platforms and the passion behind that. I made a post about this the other day, but I just like got on my regular Reddit, which I don't go on much. I mostly go on there only for soccer stuff. And I saw like a post in r/Memecoins, which was basically like it was like a trading ask. It was like, should I buy this coin? Is it gonna whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was not SPX related.
Sure.
And I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Like I never really get r/meme coin. That would never be something I would like I've been to. So I clicked it, and like all the comments were like much better off like just DCing
Just
SPX.
TCA SPX.
The
Yeah.
trenches are like a scam. Like 6900 is bigger than 500, and I was like, dude, this is.
Fucking hilarious.
I feel like a parent's like it's an overstatement of my role, but it's like I don't know. It's like you see like your kid doing something good, you're like, let's
Oh.
fucking go, we're doing a good job.
Yep.
So yeah, that like I don't know. I think a lot of that it has all like cumulatively added this. I think your show is also on this list. Like added this kind of spirit to SPX that, like you said, really humanizes it. It really makes it feel. Um, it doesn't make it feel like a coin. It makes it feel like an idea. It makes it feel like a mission. Like there are times where I'm even scrolling there and there's no charts and there's, none of the traditional coin related things.
Literally nothing. None of that.
Yeah, I kind of forget that it's like there's a token.
No, I do too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's just kind of like this idea that is spreading across all these mediums like so quickly that it's more of like a virus than it is a coin sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know if you were on the spaces. Probably not. There's so many now. Aeon girl, have you seen her recently? She's relatively new. Oh, she was with the user one. I think they're boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah, I know there's something like that.
I think they're romantic
I
for
haven't
sure.
seen her speaking. Also, just really quickly, shout out to T Dog for the decentralized like windsurfing
Oh hell
sponsorship.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
That was
course.
super like
I
just
can't
one of
wait to
the
see that.
yeah one of the coolest ideas, perfectly executed on his part. Like just a ton of like passion behind it. I think another example is like literally people DCing into Mike's wallet. Like I mean,
Oh my god, yeah, that was
it's the
crazy
sweetest
too.
thing of all time. Like, and so
Yep.
like how much has been recovered, like that would not even a tenth of what he has recovered would
That
have
would be
been.
zero
Yeah,
most
like
communities.
even in the secondary best
Yeah.
like PA community.
They'd
So
be like,
anyway,
sorry, bro, that sucks.
yeah,
That's
like
about all
your
you'd get.
security dog, yeah,
That sucks. Don't do that again.
man, yeah. So it's I don't know. I think that all that stuff's super endearing. But I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
The
Aeon girl. If you yeah, she did that with user one that event. But anyways, in the spaces she came on. I think it was Juice's spaces a couple weeks ago on Monday, I believe. I was on it. I was talking a good bit,
Yep.
and in it she came on and she started talking about like, yeah, I've never bought a crypto before. I've never bought any of this, and then I
Yeah.
was like, okay,
I did
what
hear about that.
what got you into it? And then she was like, well, I was watching She said, I really liked your podcast. She's talking about me. And then she said, but what really hit it for me is one of the episodes of Flip the Stock Market is when it
Nice.
clicked. So I was like, well, there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah,
So
I mean,
there's something about it.
I agree, and like that's the beauty of all this stuff, right? There is a real butterfly effect and like snowball effect to this stuff. You never know, like, especially when this stuff kind of like hits critical mass and there's a network effect to it and there's scale to it, and you have all these people doing all this stuff. Who knows how many people have seen, one of Seb's things
Oh,
in
yeah.
real life or walked up to the booth in
Yes.
London and then, they get a TikTok from you, right? Or they get a
Yes.
TikTok from Tans and then, they engage with it and then all of a sudden like if they have a Twitter or an Instagram or whatever, like all these things are interconnected and it's just like it's so fascinating to watch all this stuff like accelerate in real
Hmm.
time. And I mean, it's I can't imagine not being a part of it. And like I said, it's like to me, it's not even about, especially now that I've kind of made my choice about like not selling them. Like
Yeah.
not selling like at a certain whatever or a certain
You
percentage.
you were going to DCA out essentially.
Well, I'm just DCAing in. I just like have no plans to sell.
Right. I'm
Like,
saying you were thinking you were going to DCA
oh
out at
yeah, I
some
had
point.
like,
Yeah.
well, I just had like a plan to like I was gonna keep like a little bit of it as like
Sure. Yeah.
I was just treating it like a crypto, right? Like,
Yes.
um, and yeah, I think like the move away from that has helped me like just fully like I almost again like I almost forget there's a token. Like I don't look at how much I have. I don't look at like I just buy my amount on Kraken. I send it to my cold wallet.
Yeah.
I post and I talk about it because I
Yeah.
think the idea is way more powerful than the everything else. And it's fascinating to think about how this stuff spills over into the people that view, whether it's on social media, real life, whatever, that see this stuff in passing and hopefully the virus like affects them too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. It's just I just thought it was really cool. Somebody never
Yeah, that's
experienced.
awesome.
There's another book being written out, by the way, as well.
And
Uh,
audience just did an audiobook, didn't he?
Yeah, he did that too, which was awesome. I remember asking him about that in my first interview. He's like, "That'd be cool if you did that." He's like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm probably gonna do that," but he's done it, so that's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's R. Lanky who's doing the new book? Is that
R.
right?
Lakey, yes, he's wrote that other book. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
with the London meetup group.
Yeah, he's a British guy, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
He
he
was an
had a lot
early
of
doxer.
he did a lot of TikTok videos,
He
but
did.
wasn't really much X on X very much. But now I feel like he's embracing X more too, which is cool.
Yep.
But
Yep.
okay, couple more questions. Now we're basically done. How bullish are you?
Man, I mean, well, I'm just giggling because I feel like one of my favorite parts of like every Murad video that's like with like a non like SPX person, they always just ask him that, and he's just like, "I am bullish." That's so funny, and it kind of sums me up too, like to some extent. I mean, I'm bullish. I've been a very I guess let me separate for a second, like SPX and just crypto in general.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
I've
that's a
been a
good thing.
very
Yeah.
I've been a very like kind of like I've been a big advocate of like the 4 year cycle persisting um, for like probably about 2 years now. Like I bought some in just crypto in general in 2017. I bought a lot more in 2020, and then I bought a lot more in 2022. And so, there's probably some bias that like plays out there where like I've benefited from the 4 year cycle. And so,
Yeah.
I probably, I guess maybe I like, it's been a useful and like easy frame of reference. But I am starting to believe that, I mean, there's no debating that like the halving mechanism and like the supply shock from the halving is like a non-factor at this point, right? Like
Correct.
the
Yeah.
mathematics that created the previous quote unquote cycles, and then also the liquidity that flows into the other altcoins. Like there's too many altcoins now. There's a lot of like that's not happening in the same way that it
A
was.
good example of that, sorry to interrupt, Polygon Matic is a great example of
Yeah.
that. That was
Right.
one that everybody kind of pumped up. The layer two narrative in general, and they've done awful. But yeah,
Yep.
sorry, go ahead.
Yep. And there's a million layer twos now,
There's
right?
a
I mean,
million layer twos. Yep.
layer ones, layer twos, like they also got pump fund, right? And I think there's been a lot of debate as to like whether that was a smart move by ETH or not. I tend to think it was smart, but I think that people misestimated that that would have any value accrual mechanism to the like L2 tokens.
Yeah, there's yeah.
like I don't see why that should necessarily be worth something. And I also don't think that like Vitalik did that as like a like an ETH growth play, like to grow ETH, like to have value accrue back to the ETH token, right?
No,
It was
I
for
think he
like
was just trying to grow
practicality.
the network.
Yeah, I
It,
think he wanted the chain to work better, and I think
yeah,
it has helped with that.
yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that I think that the fundamental like I mean, most people are in crypto to make money, right? There are some people who like the like I guess like the technology behind some of these things, and there are people like us who like some of these ideas and what they stand for. And I think that our cohort has grown a lot as a larger percent of crypto. So I'm very bullish on like the asymmetric opportunity that exists there. I'm not very bullish generally on like just yeah, like L2 number 3000. Like your average like top 100 crypto token, like I would say I'm like buy a stock instead, you know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Yep.
I'm not super bullish on that. The premium assets in crypto, I think, realistically are kind of just like it's Bitcoin, maybe the top two to three L1s, but even eventually, I think the L1s will kind of get abstracted eventually. And, I don't think most people want to self-custody. I think that a lot of you'll just have like interfaces, maybe it'll be Uniswap directly or what have you. But I don't think that people will be interacting with chains as much. I think they'll have like help with those orders being fulfilled on the
I
back
mean,
end and
Coinbase is already going to do that right through their
exactly.
app and abstract
Exactly.
everything.
So I think that most people will have access to any asset or any token for the most part, and I don't think these things will be as gated as they used to be. I think that that was like legal and like
Oh, yeah, that's the one thing about the Trump ad is the best thing is all that bullshit's gone.
yeah, because it was like it genuinely was like an attack
Mm-hmm.
on just anyone and anything crypto. So I think that Operation like what is it like
Choke Point 2.0 is
choke
what they
point
call it.
yeah
Yep.
yeah that going away
That was
is
awful.
huge
Yeah.
yeah because that was just like active they were actively trying to like stop innovation.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that going away is huge. And I would say I'm very bullish on like crypto total market cap,
Yeah.
but I do think that there are a lot of tokens that are probably going to continue to bleed out like a Polygon. So and then as for SPX, like I mean, yeah, I mean, the commitment to not selling, tokens, I feel like has been my ultimate kind of stamp of belief that like I think that this has the highest possible percentage of like becoming a whatever a next Bitcoin means. I don't think that like I think that Bitcoin's an amazing currency. Like I personally don't think that's the route SPX will go, but I think that in terms of like paradigm shifts SPX is as close as we're going to get to a Bitcoin type of moment. And I think if we abstract like the cycle thinking, then you should just be DCAing like as much as you possibly can within reason, right? Like you don't want to. What you want to also avoid is like I guess if things go down too much or something, you're either A, over leveraged, which I don't touch leverage, or B, I don't know, like subjecting yourself to panic selling or something because
Yep. Yep. Yep.
it affects your life or something like that.
Yep.
But I think I think it's the best like asymmetric opportunity in markets. And that's why I have a lot of stuff like going on in my, I work two jobs, like one part-time, one full-time, and I spend so much time on this stuff because like I do genuinely think they have the potential to like to change everything. And I think that the bug that we've caught, and so many other people have caught, like there's a reason that we've caught it. There's a reason like, people are taking the streets and starting
Yep.
shows and making content for the first time and doxing themselves. Like all this stuff is not it's not an accident. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so yeah, I mean I guess like in theory you could always be more bullish, but like I mean I literally have like semi delusions of grandeur about this stuff,
Yeah, that's
so
what, hey, I
it'd
like
be
it.
tough, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it starts out small, then it just grows, and because of the community and because of what it is, it's crazy how bullish you become.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think it's also like you spend time in it and it validates a lot of the things that if you were like in another coin might be like a promise that doesn't get delivered. and
Yeah.
in SPX it gets delivered, and it kind of changes uh your perspective on what's possible because you get so used in crypto to people like kind of lying or being
Yep.
deceitful or like I don't know like promising that something's going to happen and it doesn't, that when something does happen you're almost caught off guard and you start to realize like wait, anything's possible here.
Well, I'm surprised you have two jobs and you're working your ass off still grinding away. My job is cushy. I work from home, and frankly, I don't work 40 hours a week. I have one of those. What do you want to? I don't know what they call it now, but yeah, one of those kind of jobs. So I have a lot of time on my hands, so I can dedicate a lot of time to it. So it's impressive that you are dedicating as much time as you are.
Yeah, I mean my jobs are also work from home. Like it's more of like I'm supporting more than just myself right now. So it's kind of like, I have to, and I don't want to be in like a situation where I feel, I don't know, against the wall because I have, so obviously so much money and like, or so like such a high percentage of my like the money that I have in PBAs. And so it's kind of just like to make it all work. But I mean, I genuinely enjoy it. And so, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't. But the only reason I say that is like, I as much as like I love all the people I've met here, like I would not be, spending so much time on all this stuff if I didn't think it was absolutely like the route that things were going to head.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I just know personally, if I was still hardcore working, I wouldn't have the same amount of time as I do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it ebbs and flows for sure. Like there are times that are, I guess a lot busier and there are times that aren't. Like I just went got through an extra busy period and I wasn't able to as much, but a lot of it, I mean, honestly, a lot of it is just like ideas that I have like while I'm passively thinking about this stuff and I'm like, okay, let me say that really quickly. And so
Yeah,
I almost treat like Twitter like a journal kind of,
I do too. Yeah.
where I'm like, okay, if I have this idea, like let me get it out there. And I think it's been great to find Aeons in general for that because it's helped me have like I guess like a group of people who I respect to bounce the ideas off of, as opposed to like before. I mean, I don't know, it just felt like a bunch of levered up hyperliquid people. Like, I don't know, it's just like pure like it's I feel like I'm at the slot machine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A 50-50 shot of going entirely broke. Or more than that, probably. 80% shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts?
Um, yeah, I think like what we're doing here is really special, and I try to like remind myself of that I think every generation like has and I guess become more frequent, but they have like an opportunity that certainly isn't like a free lunch. Like you can't expect it to happen. And that's kind of how I have thought about this. Uh, I think everyone comes to crypto with, like an idea of making X amount of dollars. And I think the people who stay find meaning beyond that and like a means of involvement that's more significant to them or like a higher purpose. You could call that spiritual, you could call it religious. Um, and I think for me it kind of taps like I guess like a part of me that needed those things and I didn't realize it. And so to everyone in the SPX community, like I'm very grateful for each and every one of you. Like I would not be here if it wasn't for SPX. And so I'm going to continue to do everything I can to like repay that, number one. And number two, um, this opportunity like does not happen if we don't put the work in. Like it's not a given. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate and respect everyone who works their ass off every day to make this stuff a reality. And I think that is why SPX has kind of transcended I guess, the average successful meme coin.
Yes.
And I think we have to like remember not only to persist forever, but to do the daily actions that has created that culture in the first place,
Hmm.
because that is how we elevate again and accelerate
Yeah.
again, and then become, I don't know, top 20 coin, top 10 coin, and eventually, um, actually in the like start passing companies in the S&P 500. And that's when the real
Yeah.
fun begins. So like before something has crossed the chasm, it's has its the highest probability of failing. And I think we are in the middle and tail end of doing that right now. And so yeah, I'm gonna do my best to just to keep that train rolling as much as I can. And I admire everyone else who's doing that. And I think it's easier to persist forever together. So let's do that.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. I appreciate you coming on, and
Yeah, dude, of
I,
course, this was a blast.
yeah, absolutely. And I know everyone will enjoy it because I think everybody likes hearing from you.
Yeah, except for me.
I've never watched a single episode. I never will.
Yeah, I've
I mean,
never like re-listened to a Compass or anything like that.
yeah,
I don't know.
Monj texted me or messaged me on X and said
Okay.
said, "Yeah, our episode was hilarious." I'm like, "You listened to it? How?" I don't know if it was. I was like, "Cool, I have no idea. I'm not listening to it."
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's something with like hearing my own voice, like all the credibility's gone. Maybe because I know
Yeah.
myself, I'm like, oh, you've made a lot of bad decisions too, man. Like, I don't know if
Oh my
you
god.
you have too
Yeah.
much context.
Making the clips is the only time I hear my voice. I'm
Yeah,
out
that's
after that.
fair.
I make a clip real
Those
quick
clips
and
are
I'm
great
done.
though.
Do
Where do
what?
you, but I meant to ask you,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could do this after, but where do you get the like the bottom half, like the Subway Surfer kind of stuff?
Oh, I'll the edits, all the Aeon edits.
Oh, you just from like the Google Drive?
No, people randomly post them. I save them, and I
Oh,
try to get new ones. Refresh.
you put it in like a folder.
Yeah, on my phone.
Okay, nice, nice.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
fun.
Yeah. So no, I do not make those.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
I was like, dude, this is like a lot of effort for
No,
like
no, and I think them.
non-focus.
I always think like Miss Ponzi and the Arcane and all
Right.
those
Okay,
guys.
okay.
Oh yeah, you make my shorts possible.
Yes, yes. Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, they're great. They're
Yep.
great.
So yeah, and we appreciate the podcast you do as well. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I'll put links to that and your X account. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you made it this far. If you haven't, we appreciate it when you do. And until next time, persist forever, Aeons.
Persist forever.